New products are hitting the market like NMC batteries from Solar Edge, and as well as 4-port microinverters coming from Hoyle Miles. They're now new to the market this week. Virtual power plants are in the news again, with global partnerships coming together to build essentially power plants out of nothing. Okay? Well, I'm Jay Warmke with Blue Rock Station, and this is the news from the solar industry for the week of January 23rd. Okay, so starting off here, Solar Edge is announced that they're beginning to ship new batteries from their South Korean plant. Now, these batteries utilize lithium, nickel, manganese, cobalt, or they're called NMC batteries. They're apparently, these batteries, according to Solar Edge anyway, have a very long life, as many as 8,000 cycles. So if you run them every day, that's going to be about 22 years on those batteries. Now, one of the downsides of the NMC technology has always been that it did not have a very long life. So we'll see how this works out. They do have the advantage of a very high energy density, which essentially means that they can provide a lot of power for the weight and size of the battery. They can have very high power throughput, so you can get a lot of power in a very short period of time. And they can operate under a wide range of temperatures. This is one of the reasons that this type of technology, NMC, is used in a lot of electric vehicles, just for that purpose. The downside is the materials used within these batteries, specifically the manganese and the cobalt, are mined primarily in Russia and the Congo. So it's created a lot of problems as far as supply chain. They also have a tendency to do thermal runaway, which is if you've heard about lithium-ion batteries exploding or catching fire. That's what we're talking about there, that if they're damaged, they can catch fire. And they do have a higher cost than the alternative technology, LFP, which is lithium iron phosphate, which is becoming increasingly popular out there in the marketplace. Okay, Hoyle Miles has announced that they're coming out with they're calling it a low-cost, 4-input, 2 MPPT microinverters. Now, basically, a microinverter is a small inverter it attaches directly to the panels. Traditionally, we've seen one solar panel for one microinverter. Now what they're doing is they're saying, okay, we can reduce the upfront costs by having a single microinverter that can connect 4 panels directly to it. However, then there are 2 controlling MPPTs, maximum power point tracking systems, that allow you to get the best production out of panels. But in this case, there are 2 of them rather than 4. So if shading occurs on one panel, it will affect 2 panels, but that still minimizes a lot of the costs. Instead of having one microinverter for every panel, now you have one microinverter for every 4 panels. Traditionally, the costs on these kind of microinverters have been in the $300 to $400 range. Hoyle Miles is saying this is a very low-cost alternative, although they're not really upfront about how much these things are going to cost. So we assume in that range or a little bit below. They do have a 1600 volt amp product, which will hook up 4 panels that are in size between 320 watts and 540 watts. They have an 1800 volt amp microinverter that uses panels 360 to 600, and they have a 2000 volt amp microinverter that will use panels between 400 watts and 670 watts. And these microinverters are very efficient. They're about 96.7% efficient. In the world of virtual power plants, now Octopus Energy has announced that they've hooked up with a deal with Enphase. Enphase is another microinverter manufacturer, really the predominant microinverter manufacturer. And this is operating within Texas, and they're going to be creating a virtual power plant by taking all of the power stored in the Enphase batteries and making that available to feed back onto the grid like a virtual power plant. I mean, it basically is a virtual power plant. Now, Octopus Energy is a UK-based company, and it came to the US in about 2020. Currently, they have a program in Texas where they'll pay consumers $25 a month to allow them to help manage the load. Really, the load they're managing is the thermostat in their house. So in order to qualify, this $25 a month buys Octopus the ability to lower the thermostat by 3 degrees Fahrenheit for a period of 2 hours, I presume each day. This then cuts down on the load demand that occurs within the grid. And of course, they can make money by selling that ability to the utilities. Now, this new program would take the stored power within the batteries of these systems, aggregate them together as a virtual power plant, and then during peak load demand periods, they could take the power from these batteries and sell it to the utility grid. In this case, it's ERCOT, for a profit. So that's the plan of the virtual power plant. They do have the intention to expand this nationwide, assuming it works out for them in Texas. And in the world of virtual power plants, and this is something we're going to hear a lot about over the years, two companies on the international front, Intertrust Group, which is a Amsterdam-based company that was established in 1952. This is a business management company, been around for a long time, is partnering with a company called EIP Grid. This is a South Korean company that has traditionally provided load management, distributed energy resource management to energy providers. And what they're now going to do is create a virtual power plant secure platform. So more and more companies can begin to take these battery-based systems, such as Enphase, in the case that's happening in Texas, or perhaps electric vehicles, and provide a way to coordinate all of that, put it back to the grid in a way that is not susceptible to hacking or any other kind of disruption from outside parties. So that's part of the way that this renewable energy industry is maturing. And that's the news from the solar industry for this week. We'll see you next week.